Hi again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of RVBusiness Capitol Talk, sponsored by the Dicor Corporation. I'm Rick Kessler with RVBusiness. With me, as always, is Sherm Goldenberg of RVBusiness. And joining the two of us today, first, Garry Enyart of Cummins Onan. And Garry is, gosh, you've been on the RVDA board since what, 2005? I'm sorry, the RVIA.
That's correct, yes.
And past chairman, of course, and that was in 19 and 20?
19 and 20, yes.
Okay. And also with us is Mike Pearo. Mike is chairman of RVDA this year. And Mike is with us coming from also from Minnesota, from Hilltop Camper and RV. Mike, Garry, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
We wind up, sitting down with the two of you for a reason that to us makes a lot of sense. We want to talk about RECT and some industry things that are going on right now. But first, we wanted to talk briefly about Garry's retirement. Is that the word from Cummins?
I'm retiring from Cummins. That's correct, Sherm. My last day will be June the 30th, and I just celebrated my 40th anniversary of working at either Onan or Cummins.
Wow.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, I actually started at Onan in 1972, so that will be 50 years. But I left for about 10 years and came back a little less than 10 years. So it's been a nice run, and but I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
I just quickly, when I hear Cummins Onan, I still tend to think almost immediately of the Louisville show and the boat that Onan would put on the Ohio River, and we did have fun. And I know it's a distraction that I brought that up, but I'm sorry.
No, we've kind of been known traditionally for our customer outings, whether it's a fishing trip to Alaska with some of our special friends and customers, or the Ohio River at Louisville. Yeah, we've had a lot of good times together.
Rick, with your forbearance here, let's talk about RECT. But if we would, could you take us back, Garry in particular, to what this is and how it got started?
So, I'll go way back to 2006 and 7 when the Committee on Excellence was formed. And we did a lot of good work working on the parts space and service and warranty processes and those kinds of things. And we pulled together a great team of OEM suppliers and dealers, and came up with a report on some of the actions to be taken. And then, if you remember, shortly after that, the Great Recession hit, which wasn't so great. And so things kind of slowed down then. And in 2018, at Louisville, we had a meeting to talk about these things as we always do with the RVDA and RVIA executive committees. Only it was a larger group then. We had a number of suppliers, Jason Lippert, and most of the major supplier key players were there, as well as some additional OEMs. We had a wholesaler there, Bill Rogers was there, and RVDA's ask was, hey guys, can we reconstitute the Committee on Excellence and specifically start working on the parts section.
What about the parts section? What about it?
Well, the issues with identifying and delivering parts in a timely manner, making sure they get there right first time, and all that kind of thing. And so there was an ask there to do that, and Bill Rogers looked down the table at me and said, we need to use some kind of process improvement system or tool. And Garry's company has Six Sigma, and that's a process improvement tool. So I just kind of sat there, squirmed a little bit for a minute, and then I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll sponsor the project. And we pulled together a team which included many of the same players that were there. So we had a good cross section of dealers, OEMs, suppliers, and a wholesaler. And we met for 6 months, once a week, almost every week, for an hour, around an hour each time. And we talked about all of the issues related to that we were dealing with. But most importantly, we got data, and we analyzed the data to figure out what was going wrong and what we could do to improve the processes and improve the situation.
The bottom line, Garry, and I'm asking, being for the industry to up its game in taking care of consumers, in fixing their rigs when something happens on the road, for instance, right?
Yes, of course.
And so you had a good start.
We did, yeah. I mean, we thought we knew what the problems were, but we needed to quantify a number of things so that we could take each of those issues and work on it and improve it.
Yeah, and from the dealer's standpoint, we felt that the parts issue was the largest area of opportunity, and that's why we felt like that was a good place to start. And fortunately, they got Garry involved, and I don't think Garry at that time knew how much he was going to be involved, but thankfully they did get Garry involved.
And so here we are in 2022, and set the scene for what you're seeing now. What's underway? Because it's not all that much public yet. You can feel this going on with RVDA and others in RVIA. What do you sense is underway with RECT at this point, coming out of the pandemic?
I would say, first of all, the industry has recognized that this is a key issue that needs to be addressed at every level. So we have industry buy-in, and they also, there has already been quite a bit of work done. There's certainly a lot more to do. And as I tell people, this is never something that you can fix and check the box and say it's done. It's an ongoing process. So we got good industry buy-in. We've made a lot of progress in a short period of time. RVTI was stood up as a result of this, and but there's still a lot of work to do. So,
and I don't mean to be carrying a ball here to this extent, Rick, pardon me, but you're gonna, I understand that you, Garry, are gonna make this a priority in your post-retirement era.
I am, yeah. I'm gonna do some consulting for the industry, and we've had, and Mike has heard this too, that this isn't something that we can, we can't put this genie back in the bottle. We're gonna complete this. We're gonna get this. We're gonna improve this over the next few years, significantly beyond where we are today. And there has been, I want to underscore that OEMs are doing things. RVTI is up and running, and we've made good progress, but there will be a series of projects that we do. And I was just over at Hilltop last month, meeting with some of Mike's folks. And so we're going to work, Mike and I are going to work in conjunction here very closely to keep this ball rolling.
And RVDA is making this a priority, I sense, at this point.
Absolutely, yeah, really. Since Brian Wilkins, when he was chairman, I think every chairman passing the chairmanship over has said to the next chairmanship, you have to keep our RECT going, and of course it is a very top priority for RVDA. We actually just had a board of delegates meeting a few weeks ago, and we discussed RECT and then also our RECT reporting with our DMS IDS, CDK have reporting right now. The feedback from the dealers is that the reporting is being used, and where it's been most successful is at a dealership level, where you can compare yourself month over month and see where your bottlenecks are and see how you can improve internally. And then some of the dealerships are even tying compensation plans to improvements to RECT. So it's wonderful to see the buy-in by the dealers and the help that we're getting from the DMS providers. So, and then also there's a progress report that RVDA has put together that just kind of journals everything that's been done to help RECT, and that'll be a report that'll just go on forever.
Rick?
Well, thank you. One of the things that I was hoping you guys might talk about is some of the specifics of what has been done. And I mean, we could go any number of level of detail with this, but maybe we just focus in on parts that have already been mentioned. What's been done, what needs to be done with parts specifically?
Yeah, from a dealer's perspective, one thing that we've seen done is some of the manufacturers have allowed us to get parts from local suppliers that we work with on a daily basis, rather than having to go right through the manufacturer themselves. And that's one thing that's been done. That's when the manufacturers allow us to do that, that's been very successful.
And some of the OEMs are providing a top 50 or top 100 or some sort of a top used parts list for you. And I mean, it's an obvious answer, but how does that help you?
Yeah, that gives us real good guidance on what to make sure we have in stock on hand. For the most part, we can kind of tell some of those parts, but there are times you get a list like that and you look through it and you realize, okay, we've got some holes in our parts and accessories departments to fill here to make sure that we can turn around a coach for a customer quicker.
One of the things, and I keep going back to parts, I know Garry in our May, June issue of the magazine has a real good column that summarizes a lot of the RECT initiatives, but universal parts numbers. Explain what that means, and boy, it sounds like a big rock to push uphill.
Yeah, let me take a stab at that. First of all, something as simple as defining what a part is. So if you've got a widget, what is this? What are we going to call it? Well, we're going to call it a writing utensil, or we're going to call it a pen, or a whatever. So I was out west visiting a dealer recently, and he said, we need to make sure that there's a common definition for parts. So that'll be a project unto itself that we'll work on. And we'll go to the supplier, the various suppliers, and come to a common agreement that, hey, this is what this is, so that when they look it up in the system, it's always called the same thing by each manufacturer. And that's not, that's just a simple thing that you don't think about, but it's very important in terms of speeding up identifying, delivering parts. Other things that have impacted parts delivery are, as simple as a drop ship program. So Mike orders a part from one of his suppliers, or excuse me, one of his OEMs. That OEM traditionally has gone to the supplier and ordered the part, and then the part would come from the supplier to the OEM, and then the OEM to Mike, to the dealer. And, some of the suppliers have implemented drop ship programs so that when that order comes in, they can bypass that step and get it directly to Mike, thereby speeding up the process. So there's probably 6 to 10 of those types of projects that we'll be working on to get, to advocate to the various parties to implement these processes, which will all help in reducing the amount of time it takes to get a part to a dealer for a repair.
These are big jobs you're talking about.
Yeah, they are, but it's like eating an elephant. You take it one bite at a time.
Oh my. All right. And Rick, Mike, anything to add? Is that a no?
Well, yeah, the only thing that I'd like to add that I think is very exciting is, like Garry mentioned, there's buy-in, and there truly is. There's buy-in from everybody, and it's great to see the dealers focusing in on what they can do to correct RECT, and the manufacturers are focusing on what they can do to correct RECT, and that's what it's going to take, is all of us working at the same time to work on our own items that we need to work on, and by us doing that, we're going to see a much needed and a quicker response to the end user, to the customer.
And suffice to say, we're going to probably hear more on this throughout the year from RVDA.
Absolutely.
All right.
And from RVIA as well. So, this is one of
Okay.
Craig's priorities. I was just talking to Curtis this morning. And there's an objective that I've signed up for, even though I don't work directly for RVIA, to help to move this forward. And it's one of the 3 primary objectives for RVIA is to focus in this area and show results. And so we'll all be working together to do that.
Excellent.
Garry, but there's more to this whole parts initiative that seems just like it's a even bigger rock to push uphill.
Yes, one of the things that came out of the CEO symposium was the need to consolidate part numbers into one given part, which can be easily identified because different OEMs buy the same part from major suppliers under different part numbers. So there will be an effort to do that. I'll be working with Craig leading that effort. And that's something that will significantly help, the OEMs and the dealers, so that they don't have to stock more parts of the same nature under different SKUs provided by different manufacturers.
Mike, it seems like, easy for me to say, but it just seems like that makes sense to have a streamlined process like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we run into that as a dealer. We run into that all the time, where you're ordering the same part under, sometimes in our internal system, we'll have 6, 7, 8 different part numbers for the same exact part. And we've worked quite a bit at the dealership level in our own system to merge these numbers, but it's an ongoing, constant problem and also an ongoing project. So if we could standardize the numbers for the part numbers for each part, that would make life much easier for the dealership.
And again, a big job.
Exactly. Yeah, a very big job.
All right.
Garry, Mike, thanks very much again for your time. Lots going on and a lot more to do, but it sure is good that we're headed in that direction.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.